Hey, I have Michael Haig here today. Michael, I'm excited to hear all about this. Would you introduce yourself and then tell us about your vision?
Okay, so my name is Michael Haig, and my vision is to help people transform other people by telling better stories. So my background is my long background is I've been working in Hollywood for 40 years, maybe 40 plus, and I've always been involved in working with screenwriters, filmmakers, producers, studios, all to improve their screenplays so that they can either get a job or get representation, or so the movie that they're in production with will be better. And better in Hollywood terms, the first thing about better is it drawing people? Are people drawn to the story, and are they emotionally involved enough that they'll recommend it? And then about 15 years ago, something like that, I started getting approached by entrepreneurs like marketers and public speakers and the sort of umbrella category of business people. And they wanted to know, well, can you guide me with your storytelling methods and so on? And I said, sure, because I love talking about story. And one of the first people that did that, a guy named Matt Basak, called me up and he said, I'm an internet marketer and I'd like you to guide me on this webinar I'm about to do. And he said, I'd like to fly to LA where I live and work with you so we can get the story on this webinar to be good. And I said, well, that sounds fun, because I figured if he's flying into LA, he's probably going to pay some money to do this. And so he came and he had this story about how he never did find out why the IRS was coming after him. They would never say why. Eventually they dropped the thing and they never did, but his lawyer said, you got to disband your business. And he was already a very successful marketer. And he wanted to tell the story in his webinar. And I said, well, look, I don't know what a webinar actually is. This is a few I know now, I've learned. But anyway, so he would tell me the story and I would say sort of repeatedly, well, I don't know how you do a webinar, but if this were a Hollywood movie, here's what I'd suggest. And then, well, if this were a movie, you need to have a scene at the beginning, and we need to see the IRS agents come to your home, and you need to tell me what exactly they said so we could put in some dialogue and where was this taking place. Okay, so he liked that and he put it together, and two things happened. Number one, this was a couple years later, he voluntarily did a testimonial because I was going to be on somebody else's podcast. And he said something like, the story that came out of Michael Haig picking my brain, I've been using again and again. And I figure so far I've made about $10 million on that story. The two things I learned is, number one, charge more. Ask for a piece of the action. And the second is story is story is story. Because I hadn't branched out beyond storytellers who get paid for their stories. I haven't branched yet into the realm of people who do not get paid for the story. They use the story to then earn money, moving the people in the audience to action. Such as a public speaker who's a coach and they want to get people to sign up for their program or buy their online course, or want to just inspire people by getting them to take certain steps that'll improve their lives. And I started doing that. And now that's sort of a heavier portion of my work because I love doing that. I love doing it all. I just love two things. So this is part of comes into that vision. I love coaching and guiding people with their stories, and I love talking about storytelling. As you can probably tell, because this one question, I went on for about 10 minutes, but I get excited about, saying this is when I learned that if you know Hollywood principles for storytelling and you apply those to even a 60-second thing on Instagram or an 8-minute speech if you're on the stage, or to your webinar, or your origin story on your website, or whatever it might be, you can achieve the primary goal of storytelling, and that is to elicit emotion, to give people an emotional experience. That's how you're going to persuade them. And the people who are masters at eliciting emotion is Hollywood, is movies and TV. So if you can do those principles, which I've been working with and developed my own sort of approach to, then I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get a stronger response from more people if you know how to do that.
That's incredible. I love it. As a writer, I'm all about the stories too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you for that, contribution to the world, getting better stories out there. Let me ask you this. I mean, you've had a successful career. You've been doing this for a long, long time, 40 plus years in Hollywood. Why are you still doing this? You could be out playing golf or, doing anything you wanted.
Well, I do play golf, and if you saw me play golf, you'd say, yeah, this guy needs to be doing something besides golf, because I'm pretty bad. I sort of answered the question. It's really this simple. I just get a great deal of joy guiding people to be better storytellers, and doing that either by making presentations, on stage, or more now on Zoom, or, seminars or webinars or things that I offer, and so on. And so guiding people to tell better stories, and teaching it, or talking about stories.
Mhm.
And it's always been that. I mean, I did until after I got to Hollywood and discovered the thing that I was best at when I went to this little film school and first came to Hollywood, was reading screenplays and then being able to synopsize them in a page without losing any of the emotional content or the action. And I took that, and I took other classes. I took filmmaking, where I made a film my own. Didn't want to do that. I didn't like directing and mastering. I like the thing that's more on your own. So I got good at that. And then I did, like 50 cold calls until I found an agent who said, well, come on in. I don't care what your education is or what you've done. I'll give you a script. If you do a good job, I'll hire you as the reader. And so he did. He liked my synopsis. And so he said, okay, you're going to be one of my readers. And the job paid $10 per script to read the script and write a synopsis. And even back in the 70s, it was not possible to live in Los Angeles on $10 a day, because that's how long it took to do one of the things. But it got me in, and I was so excited, because I thought, oh my God, I've been talking about movies, because I didn't go, it's not like I dreamed of going into the movie business and then headed right to LA. I thought that was a stupid dream. That vision made no sense, because nobody does that. So I got a master's degree in education. I taught Head Start for 3 years.
Wow.
And then I got another job that, sort of apart from that a friend gave me, just so we could hang out together in Phoenix. And finally I realized, well, if I'm going to do this pipe dream is going to come more than that. I better just go to LA. And so that's what I did. And I think my father, when I said, well, I know I've got a degree and I could probably make a decent living as a teacher the rest of my life, but I want to go be in the film business. And when he heard I was making $10 a day, just think how proud he must have been. But he was cool. He never said anything. He was very supportive. But as a result of reading a lot of scripts, I kept asking, why are these scripts so terrible? I mean, if somebody went to all the trouble, they must go to movies and think about what they're doing, and you have no idea. And so it was asking that question, like, why are these so bad? And why are the movies that I see in theaters, they're not all good. Some of them are bad too, but the movies I love, what's the difference? And so I started saying, what do those stories have that the scripts I'm reading don't have? And that's what led me to today, really, because It's how do you do the things that great movies do instead of the things that the screenwriters who weren't able to get sold or represented or whatever were doing. And that's really it. I mean, most of what I do now when I coach people about story is built on what I learned, 40 years ago when I was a reader.
Well, all those principles, they don't stop. I mean, it's an amazing thing. You were talking about the hero's journey. How long has that been around? For a long, long time, right?
Well, the idea of the hero's journey, well, the actual principle has been around for eons. It goes all the way back to the Greeks and before.
Yeah, Ulysses.
The phrase, the hero's journey, was really coined by Joseph Campbell, who he was I think a cultural anthropologist, I think it would be called, but he did this study of stories, like fairy tales and myths and stories worldwide among all, in all cultures. And his most famous book is The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And he found these beats that are included, that are present in almost all stories from all cultures. And so he sort of codified that, if that's what you'd say, or he laid out these 12 elements or 12 beats to a story. And that's what's that's what people are referring to, really, whether they know about Joseph Campbell or not, is the hero's journey. Now, what I did, there's a guy named Christopher Vogler, is a consultant in Hollywood as well, wrote a great book called The Writer's Journey. And he's the one who sort of introduced Hollywood to the Joseph Campbell hero's journey method. And he and I spoke a lot of times. We were at conferences together, we got to be pals. And I said to him, well, we should do something together. And he said, sure. And I said, I've got this idea. Why don't we call it the Hero's Two Journeys? You talk about the mythical journey, and I'm going to talk about what I call the inner journey. And that's the journey of transformation. Because the hero's journey is usually about accomplishing something. Slay the dragon, rescue the damsel, or in movie terms, stop an alien invasion, stop a serial killer, win a contest, win the love of someone else. And what interests me most is not the external obstacles, but the way we stand in our own way, the fears that hold us back from doing what we dream of doing or want to do, keep us from pursuing or achieving our vision, really. And the biggest obstacle usually we will encounter is our fear. But we don't really see it that way. We just think that we're not wired that way. And where does that fear come from? And how does one overcome that fear to find the courage to not only achieve their goal, but live in what I call their essence, to be fulfilled by what they do?
Oh, that's so beautiful. I can see why entrepreneurs would be beating your door down, going like, because it's not only getting their story out, but it seems like it kind of ties the loose end, closes the loops, ties the loose ends. They can see their story from a whole different set of eyes, which is really, really powerful.
That's true. Well, it's valuable. It's also scary. Because that's the thing. I mean, when I coach someone on their, let's say they have a story in a book they're writing, or a story on stage, or whatever it might be, I always work by asking a lot of questions. And eventually, in most first sessions, I have somebody who'll say, this is like therapy. And that really wasn't what they were paying for. And I said, yeah, because to tell your own story, for instance, your origin story, you have to make it really emotional and impact people and help them transform. You got to be willing to actually look at what that fear was that you overcame and where it came from and how did you do that. And that's not generally a place we want to go. And if we don't want to go there at all, we're probably not going to achieve at least some element of our own transformation. And then to make it public, if you're putting it on stage or on line or whatever, that's hard. But that is how the storyteller gets transformed as well as the people who are their audience or followers or customers or clients.
That's so great. And they can draw some courage from you as they're going, because you haven't, it's not the first time somebody's been scared to tell their story. You can encourage them. They probably won't die.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's what I say. They learn about courage from me, and I can help them get to it. To use me as a model of courage, I would resist that as much as anyone else would. It's just like, no, it's the same thing. I mean, we always are going to be held back by fear. It's not like there's no real endpoint to the inner journey. All we can do is overcome the obstacles we face externally and internally at a higher and higher level. But the fear is always going to be there. It's never a question of, are you afraid or not? It's what I usually say is, to become a hero, you have to stop asking the question, how can I not be afraid? And you have to ask yourself the much more powerful question, which is, am I willing to be afraid?
Ooh, so good. So good. Man, I can't wait to have you back. We got to continue this.
I don't know if I come back, I'll be out of stories of my own. I sort of just went to town. I didn't even know
you did great, man.
It was just a meet and greet, but I just as you can tell, and if you're watching this or listening to this, you can tell, I just really love talking about this stuff. I just, love this. This is, well, that's what I said at the beginning. This is my vision. This is my happy place. Even more than the golf course.
Even more than the golf course.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.